Hey, Dr. Bill Dawson.
Good to be here.
And thanks for doing this.
My pleasure.
Let's get right into it. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Weldon, California, which is in the Kern River Valley. It's a mountainous community. Our whole valley surrounds a great big lake, a man-made lake.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. So I'll go straight into it. So how'd you get started in chiropractic?
Good question. I was married very young. I got married in 1967. And not too long after we got married, my wife began coming down with some very nasty, severe symptoms.
Okay.
Her hands began to claw up and got so sore that she couldn't, after our first child was born, she couldn't even pin the diaper pin. That's back when there were no cloth diapers, and she couldn't turn a doorknob and other symptoms. Same with her feet. They got hurting really bad, and she lost the ability for the most part to swallow. No
Wow.
peristalsis from about, lower neck down. And it was pretty bad. So she got sent to the Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. We were living in the Detroit, Michigan area at the time. And she was sent 12 days. There were 12 floors in the hospital. And each day I would take her to, or when they would do a different diagnostic series of tests. And it ended up, she had a form of multiple sclerosis, which was called progressive systemic sclerosis, and doomed to die. And gosh, we were like 20 years old at the time. And so a friend recommended that I take her to the president of the National Upper Cervical Chiropractic Association. Now we call it NUCCA. And I knew nothing about chiropractic.
And what year was this again?
This was probably in about 1970 or 71.
Okay.
And I knew nothing about chiropractic. Matter of fact, in Michigan, they called a foot doctor a chiropodist.
Okay.
Out here in California, it's a podiatrist, but in Michigan, they called him chiropodist. And I thought he was recommending that she go to a foot doctor. And I said, what in the world, Well, anyway, he had moved to Michigan to study at the National Upper Cervical Chiropractic Association, NUCCA. And he was a young chiropractor, and we had become best of friends. And so I said, what do we have to lose? The medics have said she's going to die. And I was scared. And so I took her after her very first adjustment, which was to the Atlas. She began to get well. And so that kind of prompted me. I had a good job for General Motors. I was working at Detroit Diesel at the time. The thought of leaving a good job was kind of scary, but they talked me into becoming a chiropractor. This fellow that had recommended chiropractic, that I take and so I did. I gave up everything. I gave up my job, my family, my friends, and moved to California.
Okay.
Los Angeles, and I entered Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, it was Cleveland Chiropractic College. They have since closed, but it was what they called a straight chiropractic college, as opposed to a couple others where they called them mixers. And there is still the difference, but most colleges nowadays are moving into non-chiropractic methods.
Right. And then, so the person that recommended you to see a chiropractor, was he a chiropractor as well?
Yes, he was fresh out of chiropractic college, not in practice yet.
Okay.
But he had moved back to Michigan to study at the NUCCA organization.
Okay, and NUCCA was based in that area.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Do you remember the doc? Yeah.
Yes, it was the man who started the NUCCA procedure, Dr. Ralph Gregory.
Yeah.
He had worked along with Dr. John Grostic for years.
Right.
And Dr. Grostic had passed away, sometime back in the 60s. And Dr. Gregory, who was basically the scientific brain behind the work anyway, just took it over and continued developing the work until he passed away.
Your wife must have been in, really dire straits. What was her experience with chiropractic before? Like zero, right? I mean, so I can only imagine what she was thinking, when she was going there. And then you said after the first adjustment that she started getting results.
Yep, the first adjustment.
What do you think it was about that experience that gave her such great results in the beginning?
Well, her atlas vertebra was severely rotated. It had gone sideways under the skull and it rotated a lot, along with C2. And so atlas and axis had been subluxated severely, and that had caused the disease.
Right. I know you're talking specifically about the listing and stuff like that too, but was there something special about the doc that saw her?
He was a master. He could reduce atlas subluxation complex nearly 100%.
Mm-hmm.
After the first adjustment, he was incredible. I liken him to Einstein in physics.
Right.
Dr. Gregory was the Einstein of upper cervical chiropractic.
And, how would you explain NUCCA to somebody that has never heard of NUCCA before?
Well, it's based on laws of physics, and we derive information off of X-rays. We take X-rays on a new patient. We take them, still do NUCCA, by the way. We take X-rays from 3 different angles. We take a lateral, an A to P that we call a nasium, and a vertex view, or they used to call them vertical submental views, but down through the top of the head so that we can look into the ring of the atlas. And then everything is carefully measured down to less than a 1/16 of an inch. And then we derive an adjustment using laws of physics. And it's extremely gentle. The patient barely feels it, even though we're using a lot of force, but we're not penetrating the force. So there's no thrusting involved, no twisting or cracking or anything. And no two people get the same alignment, no adjustment. It's tailored to the individual.
What year did you start chiropractic school? Back in the early 70s?
January the 2nd, 1974.
1974. That's amazing. What was it like moving from Michigan, because I'm sure there's snow there, to sunny California?
California was like going to a foreign country. No, it wasn't just the weather. The people are different. The architecture is different. Everything was different.
What was chiropractic school like back when you first started out there?
Well, for me, it was an eye-opener because my philosophy teacher, who was a lady who had studied at the feet of B.J. Palmer, she was walking, talking, pure chiropractic.
Mm-hmm.
She believed in the subluxation and its correction, and that chiropractic was essentially the cure for most diseases.
Okay.
And so it was an eye opener to me because I'd grown up in a medical family and I had attended university going through pre-medical courses because that's the route I was planning on going. And my family, nobody I knew anything about chiropractic. And so going to school after experiencing my wife getting well, I understood how it worked on her, but it was real eye-opening because of the obvious difference between the medical allopathic procedures and the natural that chiropractic's all about.
Right. Did you get under care after your wife got great results?
I did, yeah. I was in a snowmobile wreck. I'd been tootling across the snow at probably 40 miles an hour, and the snow had filled a huge hole, probably 8 foot across, and my snowmobile dropped right down into that hole and just crunched my whole neck. And so I immediately went to see Dr. Gregory.
Okay.
And it worked.
Chiropractic works. Okay, so you're in a part of that group that actually got care and got adjusted and got results before enrolling in chiropractic school. And so how big was your class? I mean, what was it like? Like, was Cleveland at the time in LA like a big school, or is like a large class as well?
It was my freshman class was huge. There were probably 80 of us.
Okay.
So I don't know if that is what is huge compared to today. I don't know what they're doing today, but anyway, it was very affordable at the time.
Mhm.
Prices for chiropractic education back in the 70s were, you know, less than a tenth of what it is now.
Right.
And so there were a lot of people that could afford to go.
What are some of the things that you remember of in your or fond memories of chiropractic school?
Fond memories. One of the fond memories was dissection.
Okay.
And I don't know if they're dissecting, real bodies today, real
Mm.
cadavers, but that was very interesting
Mm,
because you got to see firsthand what we're made of.
right.
you know. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I did.
I mean, coming in as an upper cervical patient, now chiropractic student, there's could be technique classes and stuff like that too. Did you let them touch your spine like below below Atlas?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
Being X-rayed was part of being a student, so we all
sure.
had to get a full spine X-ray because
Right.
it was a full spine technique that they taught, and
Okay.
they only taught Merrick recoil back at Cleveland,
Okay.
only one technique, and so a lot of the guys were going out learning Gonstead or SOT or some of the other, Van Rumpt, DNFT, and some of
Right.
the other methods, but in clinic we were only allowed to do the Merrick recoil method.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. And then so you move out to LA, you're starting school. There's some fun things that you're enjoying in school. I mean, are you still friends with anybody from Cleveland, LA?
Well, let me digress and re-answer your question about what really hit me. It wasn't what my education in college was about, but I had made friends from the very first week. I'd made friends with a student who
Okay.
was new also, who had gone all the way through the concept therapy work,
Okay.
all the way through phase 7. And we buddied up and we started talking. And so he introduced me right from the get-go to
Okay.
the concept therapy work,
And
which was
this was your first year.
this was right at the very beginning.
Okay.
And so even though that wasn't pure chiropractic, it was philosophy that we were discussing. I had been really big into religion, and
Mhm.
his name was Eddie Harrison. He had a degree in religion from Chapman College before he started chiropractic college. And so
What was that school about?
he knew how to talk to me,
Okay.
and so for my entire chiropractic education, well, it wasn't Dr. Eddie, but Eddie and I sat together and discussed things, and he got me into concept therapy.
Eddie first introduced you to about it. What was the next step after he told you about this? How did the conversation, if you remember, how did it even get started?
Well, I had to know more because I was pretty intellectually egotistical, and I had been a preacher and a Sunday school teacher for a number of years at the time. And so, I knew the Bible very well, and as did he, but from a non-religious. He wasn't a churchgoer, but he was interested in religion. And anyway, there was a teacher, a young guy at the time, not so young now, but a young guy that was teaching the concept therapy work in Los Angeles. And so Eddie talked me into taking my first class.
So he was just very enthusiastic, excited about what he's learning. Why was it even a concern whether you were religious or not religious at all? Why was that in conversation in the beginning?
Well, it really wasn't part of the conversation because he knew that I had very strong religious beliefs,
Okay, gotcha.
Christian religion, beliefs. And he didn't try to refute any of it. He tried to enhance my understanding
Okay.
and my beliefs. And, I was 26 years old at the time, and he was a little bit younger, a couple of years younger, and he knew a lot of stuff. And
Okay.
because he had graduated from Chapman College, and also because he'd gone all the way through the concept therapy work. As a matter of fact, he and Char Maddox, who was my first teacher, they'd gone to school together. And so that's how Eddie knew Char, and it was Char that got Eddie into concept therapy. And so it was like getting passed down.
Where is phase 7 in regards to
Okay.
everything?
All right. The concept therapy work, concept therapy is the name of the first course. And it typically has been a 23-hour class, Friday evening, all day, Saturday and Sunday. And they cover the concept therapy text. And so they'll read and then explain out the text. And then that's followed by a course called conceptology, which is 7 different classes, phases 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Each one of those was a 23-hour class, expanding out infinitely the concept therapy work. Each course is different, totally different from the others. There's not a lot of repetition.
Right.
And it takes you all the way up through the extreme depths of philosophy and metaphysics and religion and other human mindsets, other human endeavors.
Right. You're attending your first one with Eddie. So it sounds like Eddie's retaking it with you, or are you by yourself?
Eddie took it with me.
Okay. And then
Maddox taught, he didn't have a teaching partner, so he taught the whole class by himself.
wow. Okay. And this was where?
This was in Orange, California.
What was your immediate reaction after taking it?
Well, in a word, wow. I had never heard anything put together that way ever. And, I'd been a university student and I'd taken, all the science classes and everything. We're big into religion, and I had never heard anything like what I had been taught in that first class.
Mm-hmm.
I was astounded.
Mm. You couldn't have picked a better teacher.
True.
Yes.
True. Even though Char was young at the time, he was a master teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Back in, he was probably 22 years old. Master teacher.
Why was it so done well by him?
Well, it answered questions that I didn't even know I had. It asked a lot of questions and then gave the answers, and they were very deep questions. This was the beginning course, mind you. It talked about, healing and why people heal, and that's how concept therapy had gotten started in the very beginning anyway, back in the 1931. And so concept therapy, and this was just the beginning course, it was asking and answering questions that were like, wow, this was totally amazing.
Right.
And it's all about life, all about living, how the human being fits into this system, this world, and how to make things better.
Right.
In any area, not just as a doctor, but in any area. Char was not and never became a chiropractor, but he really understood about chiropractic, and so it was totally amazing. And so what happened after that was the following month, Char was having a conceptology phase 1 class.
Okay.
And now, mind you, I had a wife and 3 children at the time, and I wasn't working. And I, just on a prayer, I had gone out there and gotten an apartment and started chiropractic college, but had no money. I was living off of some savings, and we had sold everything we had owned back in Michigan to move to California. Mm. Right. And so I put phase 1 on a credit card, and my wife chastised me, you can't do that. But I had to take phase 1 of conceptology the following month. And I did.
Good.
And that was, it just blew my mind.
Did your study just continue on? I mean, did you just stick with concept therapy throughout, while you're going to chiropractic school as well?
I did. And I had the benefit of Eddie Harrison, who again had gone through all the work, and all of the questions that I had, I could bring back to school, and we became best of friends. And so,
Good.
We would even hang out on weekends, but I had lots and lots of questions, and as a beginning student, my understanding was a beginning understanding. And so Eddie helped me all the way through chiropractic college. And to make a long story short, another long story short, he ended up becoming my teaching partner because I wanted to become a teacher.
Okay. So what came to you to make you want to teach it?
Well, I while I was going to chiropractic college, I ended up getting a job that was perfect for attending classes because I became a custodian for the Los Angeles School District. And so I'd go to school from 7 in the morning until I think 3.
Okay.
I'd rush home, get changed, eat a bite, and then I'd go to my school. And I was, a janitor, a custodian, and which allowed me plenty of study time for my schoolwork. And the benefits were that I could take any Friday off I wanted. And so I was able to attend all of the concept therapy classes. Char was teaching one every month.
Okay. Wow.
And then after I was working and I could afford it, which wasn't too long after that, I got my wife involved. And so we
Okay.
were going together and we went all the way through phase 7. And coincidentally, they used to offer, the Concept Therapy Institute used to offer a, a doctorate degree called the Doctor of Cosmic Principles. And I received that diploma one day before I received my Doctor of Chiropractic. And
Amazing.
so I became a double doctor.
Awesome. I know that Dr. Thurman Fleet passed away in 1983,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. So did you have any opportunities to connect with him or know him or?
I never met him personally. We corresponded a little bit through mail,
Okay.
but I never met him.
Hmm. Gotcha.
Concept Therapy Institute, we call it the ranch. It was originally a 318-acre piece of property out in suburban San Antonio,
Mm.
kind of rolling hills and ancient trees, oak trees mostly throughout, a lot of wildlife. And Dr. Fleet, purchased buildings and so on and created the Concept Therapy Institute. And it's there today.
Right.
But back in the early days, it was a healing resort. People would go there to get healed from incurable conditions
Hmm.
that did get cured, you know.
Yep. Yep. So you graduated, you're a double doctor now, and then what was next for you?
Well, I started in practice in Fresno, California.
Up in North
Um,
California?
in 1977, I
Okay.
started practice. 2 years later, I was offered the opportunity to purchase a second practice, a NUCCA practice, here in this valley where I live and now practice. So anyway, I had two practices and I started, and they were 175 miles apart.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I cut my Fresno practice to Monday and Thursday, and I would drive up here to the Lake Isabella practice and work Tuesday and Wednesday, and then go back home. And I never worked Fridays because I've always, in almost 50 years of practice, I've never worked Fridays because I wanted to keep that day open for either taking a concept therapy class or teaching a concept therapy class. And so I've always worked 4 days.
Mhm.
Nowadays, I only work 3.
Cool. And then so you're still in practice today?
Absolutely.
I know all the chiropractors that are watching this that they were debating, okay, like how can I take this and apply it to, so say they haven't taken concept therapy or even phase 1, like how did you feel prepared or what did you bring to the practice after, essentially taking all the courses? What was it like when you first opened up your practice back in Fresno, and what did you bring to the practice from concept therapy?
Well, concept therapy creates a level of consciousness in practitioners. And it's not just chiropractors, but it's mostly chiropractors, but we have psychologists and so on, and even massage therapists. But it creates a level of understanding of how you can basically contact the innate intelligence. That's the chiropractic term. uh,
Hmm.
the power that runs the body. It
Right.
created the body and it runs the body. In concept therapy work, we call it spirit, and that just gets us away from the pure chiropractic, but it's the same power. And so the chiropractor who is involved in the concept therapy work learns how to contact and then direct the innate intelligence in the patient.
Hmm.
Amazing.
Right.
And so it's a healing work, not just a chiropractic work. Yeah, we do have a chiropractic side to the concept therapy work, but it's for any healer. You don't have to be a chiropractor. It's to develop a healing consciousness within the practitioner. And as a healer, not just a bone adjuster, but as a healer, you can effect far far more improvement in the symptomatic picture that the patient came in with, you know.
Right. Little fun fact, Dr. Dawson, I was actually an intern at Dr. Robert Brooks's office.
Oh, no kidding.
Um, yeah, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he was a well-known, internationally known NUCCA doc as well too. So I got to experience it and see all the miracles and the amazing things that chiropractic and specifically NUCCA can truly help people. So I know with NUCCA, there is a system and protocol to how you see and help a practice member or patient coming in. And I know within concept therapy, there is zone healing, which is a system that Dr. Philippe put together in regards to create some amazing results in the people that he saw as well too, and being and teaching other chiropractors as well too. Did you incorporate any zone healing, or what extent did you bring zone healing into your practice?
Yes, the zone technique is basically a suggestive therapy work.
Hmm.
And it's not about locating and correcting vertebral subluxations like I was originally taught that chiropractic was all about.
Hmm.
And of course, in NUCCA, you locate them by x-raying,
Hmm.
and then you measure very, very carefully, measure. And so the NUCCA work is about locating and correcting, especially upper cervical subluxations. You're very concerned where the atlas sits under the brainstem because you don't want the atlas interfering with brainstem conductivity.
Right.
And so NUCCA is all about pure chiropractic, the philosophy of locating and correcting vertebral subluxations. The zone work, however, is more of a suggestive therapeutic work. You discuss a symptomatic picture with the patient and you assign their main problem to one of the 6 systems of the body. We
Hmm.
call them zones. So zone 1 is the glandular or the chemical system. Zone that which gets rid of toxins and
Zone
metabolic
two,
byproducts. And
and say that one more time. Zone two is what?
it's the eliminative system.
Right.
So it's designed to help the patient get rid of toxins and poisons in the body. Then you have the nerve system, and then you have the digestive system, and then you have the muscular or musculoskeletal system, and finally the circulatory system. And so the zone technique is designed to pinpoint a system that's not functioning properly in the patient and then deal with that. Dr. Fleet's chiropractic technique said that there were 4 bones in the spine that could be stimulated, which sends a stimulation up the spinal cord, up back into the brain to that particular center, the glandular center, the eliminative center, and so on.
Hmm.
And so I started incorporating that system along with what we call zone slips, which is a little piece of paper you give to the patient asking some questions. But the zone technique is not about correcting vertebral subluxations. It's about stimulating, basically, the end result is stimulating a brain center
Hmm.
to kick it into gear, if you will,
Right.
and make it control that system out in the body correctly.
Did you palpate the occiput as well, or how did you incorporate zone healing in practice?
Okay, zone healing, the way the chiropractor is taught, you palpate the superior nuchal line,
Mhm.
along the occiput, and there are tender spots that would correspond to that particular zone or that body system. And that is your key to which 4 bones needed to be stimulated.
Right.
And I did that a lot at first. I don't have to anymore, but now I just do pure NUCCA. However, I do use the suggestive therapeutic side of the zone work in my practice. I have all of the concept therapy charts up on my walls. And
How about a spinal demonstrator?
I have one. I bought one of the early ones. I
Awesome.
bought 2, and my son, who's a chiropractor,
Oh, amazing.
he's got the other one.
Okay, sweet. I was lucky enough that CTI let me know of an available spinal demonstrator. So I have one at my office as well.
They are currently, and I think it's on the back burner, but they are currently trying to figure out a way to have those reproduced.
Oh man, that'd be amazing.
They're expensive.
I don't believe there's no expensive, no price that I think we could have it on the wall. I think it's such a great piece that I use on all of my new practice members, my new patients that are coming into the office as well too. So I love it.
Well, I lucked out because Dr. Fleet's daughter's son had started making them.
Okay.
I was a good friend with Dr. Fleet's daughter.
Okay.
He said, "Hey, my son is selling spinal demonstrators. He's only got a few. You want one?" I said, "I'll take 2."
That's amazing. That's good. Okay. So you're seeing people, you're helping people get great results. So then you open up another practice, so you bought that practice, and then, which is where you're at right now. And I remember you saying that, hey, I wanted to teach. So then you and your classmates are now teaching, right? So when was your first class? Do you remember your first class that you taught with them?
Do I ever? I took the teacher's training work, which was a week in Dallas in 1970. It was July of 1979. And my wife accompanied me, and although she didn't want to be a teacher. And so I took that class, and I had already put together a class to teach the following month. And so I taught my first class in August of 1979, and I had invited Eddie Harrison to join me. And so we taught the class together.
Okay. And then, so how many was in your first class?
6.
That's amazing. That's so good. I mean, were you dragging people from the street? Were you dragging people from the street? Was it your cousin's cousin? I mean, where did you find these people?
Well, one of them was another chiropractor in town and his CA.
Okay.
And then the other 4 were patients of mine.
Okay. That's amazing. So then you taught your first one. What was it about? And do you remember what you felt like after completing it and helping people go through concept therapy for the first time?
Well, number one, teaching my first class scared the hell out of me. I had studied and studied and studied more, and intellectually I was prepared, but teaching the work is a huge responsibility. But the feeling I had after that first class, there are no dictionary words for.
Right.
It was such a high, such an incredible experience in consciousness. And so it made me want to do it more, and I did.
That's good.
Way
So
more.
then, do you remember what year that was when you first taught?
1977.
1977.
No, 79.
Okay.
79.
Gotcha. Okay. Then are you guys still hosting courses out in Northern California?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I remember seeing them out there as well too. Now I'm in the opposite corner from here, but I don't know, man, it would be great to be able to come out there and take a course with you. Do you ever make it out to San Antonio?
All the time.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Of note, my current wife is basically the president of the board of control of the Concept Therapy Institute. And so she and I go out there and we teach. We haven't been teaching here in Weldon for a little over a year because we've been going to the ranch, to the Concept Therapy Institute, and teaching out there. And we've got a few courses already scheduled for this year.
Okay, perfect. That's exciting. And then, so if a chiropractor is watching this and hasn't pulled the trigger yet in regards to taking the concept therapy course, because you have to take the concept therapy course before taking phase 1. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right.
Concept
So
therapy is beginning work.
Okay, so what would you tell a chiropractor that has never taken course concept therapy why he or she should come take it? Because obviously there's never a good time, whether it's going to be kids soccer games or the cost to get out to San Antonio, or there's never going to be a good time.
Well, it's like taking some of the other chiropractic courses. It's a sacrifice and an expense. They're far more expensive to take most of the other management courses than to take concept therapy. I was in Singer management for a long time, and David Singer was awesome.
Right.
I was with Chuck Gibson management for
Yeah.
many years. I've had friends doing DeMartini, and I've listened to a lot of DeMartini stuff. It's all awesome. And it all helps. It helps build a practice. It
Right.
really does. And I recommend management courses to any, especially young chiropractor or somebody that needs a boost.
Mm-hmm.
But concept therapy is a bit different because it makes a healer out of you,
Mm-hmm.
not just a bone mover, but it makes a healer out of you. And whether you think you're getting good results or not, there are people in your practice that aren't getting the results that you want them to get symptomatically. And even in my practice, this is my border collie.
Hey.
This is Glory.
Hey.
Get down. Get down. Even in my practice, and I've been in practice for, I think, 48 years now, I still have people that don't respond well, and it's all explained in the work and how to fix it, how to
Mm-hmm.
correct it. But to me, concept therapy and chiropractic are integral. They go so hand in hand that I can't imagine practicing without my knowledge of concept therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's not a business building course or how to make more money. It's about how to change what you are on the inside, which then you transmit to the patient.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing work. I can't imagine life without concept therapy. It doesn't interfere with a person's religion or other, philosophies and so on. It adds,
Right.
it enhances.
Yeah, I'm glad that you kind of touched upon that as well too, because it doesn't matter, whether you're Christian, Buddhist, Scientologist, any kind of type of religion, that this just applies whenever you talk about universal principles of life. And then so there's concept therapy, and then I know I've taken concept therapy. I need a refresher, but I have not taken phase 1 yet. So that's going to be next for me. So speaking to a chiropractor that has not taken phase 1 yet, but has taken concept therapy a little bit ago, I'm going to do a refresher, but I think the next phase 1 is going to be later on this year. Why do you think I should take as a chiropractor phase 1?
Because phase 1 takes certain ideas in the concept therapy class, expands them out to a full weekend, and is a hands-on class where you work with other people one-on-one. And so they'll teach a lesson, and in that lesson is a certain idea. And then you take that idea and you have a partner that you have chosen or they've chosen you, and you work one-on-one with people. It's an absolutely astounding class. My phase 1 class, like I said, it just blew my mind. I couldn't believe that this stuff, that this instruction was available anywhere on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very intense class, and it was designed, actually in the early days, concept therapy and phase 1 were taught as a full week-long course. So the doctor and it was taught mostly to chiropractors in the early days. So the doctor finished concept therapy, and the following day he entered phase 1 and got taught the phase 1 class, because it's, of all the courses, it is the healing class for healers.
Right.
And Dave, you really need to get into phase 1. I'm not kidding you. It'll blow your mind. What you'll see and experience, and some of the things that we do later in the course. I've taught phase 1 probably 40 times.
Awesome.
And so what we do later in the class is it will astound you, from magnetic healing, where we are drawing disease out of a patient's body, to clairvoyant diagnosis, and these other things that are just amazing. It's getting in touch with what we call spirit, or the innate intelligence. It will get you directly in touch with and in tune with the innate intelligence more than you could ever do uh, by attending a chiropractic college or attending the other management courses out there, which are all good. I like them. I've been to lots of them.
If you're a student right now, like listening to this, I mean, is it too soon for them to start taking concept therapy?
No. And, originally it was taught only to chiropractors. Now it's taught to everyone.
Mhm.
So anyone can take the work. We tailor our instruction to the students in the class. So if we have a class loaded with doctors, then we'll tailor the explanation of the instruction to them. If people that aren't in the healing realm, then we tailor the class to them, because it's all based on principles or laws. And so the laws can be applied in any field of endeavor. But
So,
yeah, if you're a chiropractic student, concept therapy to me is a must. You really need to get
mhm,
into it and learn how to be a healer, not just a technician, but a
mhm.
healer.
Some aha moments for you. You became a teacher, and you've taught so many people. What are some of your favorite moments whenever people get the aha as they're taking courses and stuff like that too? Can you think of any times where like somebody just had these epiphanies and big changes, or you know?
When you can look into the face of your students and you see the tears
Mm,
streaming down their face, they're getting it.
mhm,
And that makes the tears come down my face.
yep, that's powerful. And then, I mean, what's your hope for concept therapy in Concept Therapy Institute?
Well, the Institute itself has undergone a miraculous, wonderful change in the last few years. They've spent a ton of money on how to teach. They have an LMS, a learning management system, that's going to be out there, which will allow students to not have to attend a live class. Although my highest recommendation is be in a live class,
Hmm.
and like, for instance, I took David Singer's classes for a long time, and
Hmm.
Singer management, and I can't imagine not being there live, just doing it over my computer or watching on TV. There's such a difference in being in a class live. So I always extremely strongly urge people to get into the classes live. But concept therapy is headed in the right direction now. We're going to have a system of doctors teaching other healers
Hmm.
in classes, and it's just they've really taken the work in the right direction, and
Right.
it's amazing.
And thank you so much for doing this podcast. I knew that I wanted to get into communication with you, to get to know you virtually at least, and my hope is to be able to take one of your courses, because I would love to spend a weekend with you and learn from you and learn from Dr. Fleet at the same time. And so after it's all said and done, what would you want your legacy to be, whether it's going to be in chiropractic and concept therapy? Have you thought
Well,
about that too much?
actually, it's both, because I'm very active in NUCCA. I'm going through certification right now
Mm,
in NUCCA because I want to be a better uh, corrector of
mhm,
upper cervical problems. And it's tough, and there's a lot to it, and and it's exciting to me because it gives me a goal. And so I'm actively involved in the NUCCA work and in certification. And I want to be part of half of my legacy. And I'm a NUCCA ambassador. And
mhm,
until about a month ago, when I turned loose of a position, I was in charge of the ambassador program for NUCCA.
mhm.
So because I think you knew what I'm talking about because you were with Bob Brooks. Bob
Mhm.
Brooks did a lot for NUCCA. But anyway, so part of my legacy is my involvement with NUCCA. Dr. Gregory was my original chiropractor, and he started NUCCA, and I owe him.
Mm.
I owe him to become better all the time
Mhm.
as a chiropractor, as a pure adjuster. The biggest part of my legacy, though, is, I've probably already taught, I can't tell you how many hundreds of classes that I've taught. I want to leave the world behind with an increase in consciousness or knowing, which is what I try to convey to my students. And my current wife, who is president of the board, she is my teaching partner right now and doing an excellent job because we fit together. And so we bring our students from hour one all the way through. Most teachers do it in 23, but we immerse our students in the work, and we soak them in it. And we do it in this, when we're teaching at home, we teach here in our living room. That's where I'm sitting right now. We turn our living room into a classroom, and we feed our students. For no charge. We don't charge them. And a lot of people stay here. We've got 3 bedrooms, and Robin and I only need 1.
Okay.
And so we've got a big couch that can hold 2, and we got 2 extra bedrooms. And so for a number of years, probably the last 12 years, we've taught here in Weldon, California. All you got to do is fly into Bakersfield, rent a car, and drive up. And Dave, I hope you do come to some of our classes. They're intense, and Robin and I are pretty good teachers. And so again, back to my legacy, I want to be known as one of the top teachers that the Institute has ever had.
All right. Well, thanks again. If Dr. Bill Dawson is super easy to get a hold of on Facebook. I sent him a message. So that means that you probably could too. So definitely reach out to him if you're watching this. If you're curious, you wanted to get in communication with them, just reach out to him. Thanks again, Dr. Dawson,
I'm available anytime. If anybody has any questions, Facebook me, message me, call me on my phone, get a hold of me. I only work 3 days a week, so I've got plenty of time to talk about this work.
Awesome.